welcome to the UnLearn show, Aaron. All five of the co-hosts are absolutely excited to have you here. And without further ado, please, if you don't mind, tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, I'm just really excited to be here. So it's really an honor. I'm a fan of each and every one of you guys. So, well, a little bit about me. I have a diverse background, and what I've really been working on is really true to the tone of your show in unlearning and redefining and going through the process of making life makes the most sense through that lens. And so I've taken a lot of this background and experience of my own and built out a leadership development platform that is a little bit different, takes a less of a nuanced and abstract approach and utilizes some very core execution practices to build a culture of developing leaders within organizations. So that's what I'm working on now. It's an exciting time of life, doing some new things. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Awesome. So how about you tell us what your why is, or kind of what your purpose is? What do you feel like that is?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So for me, honestly, I feel like I've been blessed with gifts like anybody else. And I want my life to matter. I want it to make sense and not just make a huge waste of everything I've been given. I think one of those key things for me has been unraveled a bit and just exposed to help me understand myself a little better in just different situations throughout life and in work. And one of the things that I found is one of my biggies is just being a calm in a storm, and just not being that person running away from it, but just being a source of calm and strength in that. Something that happened a few years ago when I was with, I was in banking, in bank management, and I had only been in this role for a couple months. And so I'm a new nervous manager wanting everything to go right. And the worst thing that can possibly happen happened. A gentleman walks into our bank one afternoon and robs us. And I had been the only guy who was in conversation with this guy when it happens. And, it's scary. It's scary when that happens. And you never know how you're going to respond when something like that happens. But, I kind of was surprised in just that what just kind of flowed out of me and came out was just a very rational calm. And I just talked to the guy. It really diffused things, and he left. He took our money, but he left. And so, yeah, I think I was in talking to a lot of other managers after that happened. People really wanted to hear the story and know what happened and blah, blah, blah. That was kind of one of the things that came out of it. They're like, you have this really calming presence and calming effect to situations. And so there have been other things, like even just in companies getting bought out, and we're all wondering what's going to happen with our jobs. And I think that for me, a big part of my why has been uncovered in just knowing that part of my strength and my role is just being that calming presence to a situation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, it's I think that's it's a critical process to really just examine your own stories and your own experiences, and that's what I try to do. Another big thing too for me is just in looking at happiness. I spent some time thinking about this just prior to being on the show, because of the whole concept of unlearning to me has been like this whole idea about what do you unlearn that you have learned through your whole life. And a big one for me has just been like this idea of happiness and what I want out of life, and I started to realize I have, like a lot of people, I have spent so much of my life kind of looking out at the horizon and feeling like, when I do this, when I accomplish this, and when I have these things, like that's what happiness and fulfillment and success all look like to me. And, the truth is, it's like, it's a bad way to live, because as you get bits and pieces of this, we all know, you start to discover it's never enough. And it never actually looks like what you had built it up to be in your head by the time you're there anyway. And I think I've really become really intentional about just doing a lot of inventory on myself and taking stock and knowing the junk that's there, and try to get a better understanding of why it's there, but also just understanding that by going through those processes, it makes me very, very deliberate to be living in a present moment, and I mean, not being that guy that's just like pounding my fist on a table about what happened years ago that I can't do anything about or change, or even minutes ago that I can't do anything about and change. And also to what can be just as bad for me is just like looking so far out in the future that, I miss everything right now. And so I'm very intentional about that as well. So yeah, a very long-winded answer to explaining why, but yeah.
What is, I guess, walking us back, what was a pivotal moment for you? Like, what was something that you were unlearning that was sort of like that moment that like everything switched? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think it's a hard one. It's kind of for me, it's been a process, I don't necessarily know that there's been like this lightning bolt moment when all of everything became clear. But, I think it was just this combination of things in a process that really wasn't all that long ago. I think it's a really good question in that sense that it's current to me. But something I have dealt with is being with companies where there's like a ton of potential and promise and all these things that I really feel like I want in the future. And like, this is going to be that vehicle to get me there. And then, just unique to my situation, like a large amount of these companies have been bought out. And then leadership gets severanced out and we start over. And so that picture that I had of where I was headed is suddenly just totally disrupted. And so I think that, I think that it's been recently that happened again. And I was with a software company, got bought out. I was let go. And, this idea of security is just misplaced. And so I think thinking through all of that, I think really that moment that changed all of that really started then. And again, I'd been through that a little bit, so it had been leading up to it. But really, this last one was kind of like, this really strong moment of being like, it's really true that there is no time, and we've talked about this, Katie. It's just like there's no time that you can ever really feel like, this is a forever job, and this is where my security's at, and also just thinking that that's what I wanted, and what was like so important to me. I really was like one of the happiest moments, and I think this played a big point in turning that as well. One of the happiest moments in my life surprisingly came over the summer after I had left, and it's a trip I wouldn't have been able to go on if I had still been in that position. And group of guys were going down to Mexico. And it was last second for me to join them, but they were going down there to like just finish the build out of a church in these really remote villages. And we spent the week down there and like sleeping on the roof of a store, and it's like just a blanket on a concrete slab. And not eating a whole lot and not getting to shower or all these things. And it was like really, really, on one hand, it was tough and we were working really hard, but it was, it just felt like it was so alive in that moment, you know, and like doing something that wasn't just about KPI or metrics or me getting a bigger bonus. It was just about like, man, we are just going all in on something that matters and helps other people. And I felt alive. Like it felt like what I was doing now finally matters. And so I think a big part of doing what I'm doing now is built upon kind of this foundation of being like, you know, I can't do these kinds of things that are really important to me if I'm in the kind of position I have spent so much of my time trying to create for myself. So I think it's part of it is just letting go of a lot of ideals and things like that.
I love the irony in that.
Yes.
It's a awesome irony. I think when everyone reaches that moment in a different spot in life, different circumstances, and it looks a little different for everybody. So what does that make your lens like now on life? Like, how have you taken moments like that? And what is that now moving forward? How's that? Like, do you have a different sort of lens that you can describe, like the before lens and the lens now?
Yeah, sure. I think it's just that like looking at life from the perspective that it's not about me. And I know that sounds like really altruistic and, you know, people say that because, you know, it's supposed to make me sound deep or like a great guy. And I'm not. I'm neither. I'm not deep and I'm not a great guy.
Yes, you are.
But like, it's just like, really, it's true. I think it's kind of a freeing moment to understand that too. It's like, it's not about me. It's about other people. And I think, you know, for those of us who become parents, I think you go through a period of understanding that as well. Like, it's really not about, you know, your sleep doesn't belong to yourself. So
Ever again.
Never again. Yeah. So, you know, I just think that, and it's looking at it through that, you know, I mean, even when like I'm talking to people, just like hardcore career conversations about, you know, what are your strengths? What do you like doing? Blah, blah, blah. What's your experience? And what's an ideal role? I mean, you know, honestly, I did so many years of sales and I did well in it and I can do it and I don't dislike sales at all, but, and I always chased management, you know, I always wanted to be in management. I always thought that's where I was tracking. And it was always because in my mind, that was like, okay, I'm more important to an organization. It makes me more secure. It feeds my ego. I'm the guy. Blah, 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 blah. I'm here because I'm so smart. Where when I actually got into leadership roles, the thing I quickly found out was that I had to be willing to have conversations that are really uncomfortable and I don't like having normally. But what that forced me to do is it was just like, it really put me in a position of understanding this is not about me. And like my job in all of this is not, it's like really should be about, you know, finding out how I can make people better and help them. And then when I actually started acting that way and doing it, I've never been happier in my career. I loved it. And there was nothing more exciting than seeing somebody actually like meet you in the middle somewhere and put that effort in themselves and work with them and see them actually grow and accomplish things that they had set out to do. That was a big deal. So Jake, just going back to your question, I think the lens that I try to see through life now, or I don't even know that it's that I try to, it's just that it's evolved to become this way. It's just that it's not about me. It's not about you. It's not about anybody. I mean, we should all just really live in a way that we're putting other people before ourselves. And the craziest thing about when you do that is that it's brought a level of happiness into my life that I would have never put those two things together. It's been a surprise, but it's awesome.
For sure.
So what's the one piece of advice that you'd give your 18 or 19-year-old self on finding happiness and being in this position today?
Oh man, that's a really good question. Don't take things quite so seriously, especially yourself. I think that I would tell my 18 or 19-year-old self that that you need to learn a really new definition and idea of what you think greatness is, because I would also tell myself that you're going to wake up and it's going to be like that you're 40 years old. Things have changed and it goes by really, really fast. So make much of time. I look back at so many wasted days and so many wasted opportunities in this belief that I have all the time in the world, and that I don't have to just constantly be all about trying to live a life of purpose and a life of meaning, So focus on the right things, make much of time, and understand that it goes fast.
I love it. That's some good advice. It's a good advice for a 30-year-old, not just an 18-year-old.
Yeah. Now ask me if I would have listened to myself.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah. Yeah. So what about you? I'm going to flip that on you, Chantel. Yeah. I want to know.
Do it.
Oh my goodness. My 18-year-old self was a mess, was a hardcore mess. That's the biggest transition in your life, is when you're finally, your parents finally say, you're an adult, you're on your own. Instead of my house, my rules, you go on your own, you find your own thing. And I was so afraid. I just lived in so much fear of being rejected, fear of letting people down, fear of not leveling up to my brothers and stuff like that. So I think I would have to tell my 18-year-old self to forget the fears. Don't let fears define you, and just go for it. It's way more complicated than it sounds, right? But
no, but it's really good. I think that's a big one.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge one. I mean, because at the end of the day, that's it, right? I mean, so much of the way we operate is fear-based, and I look at like so much of the time that I've wasted, it's been totally based on fear, right? I mean, even in other positions, I mean, if we're all being honest here, there have been times that I took like other positions and jobs where I already had this idea and knew I have the ability to go out on my own. And, I'm not because I'm anything special, but I just am a firm believer. Any one of us can look at what other people are doing. And if someone else can do it, then we can do it too. I mean, like within limits. And I can't go build a rocket just because some guy at NASA does that, right? But within realistic boundaries, yeah, I mean, why not? We can totally go do that. I think the biggest thing that gets in our way, and definitely speaking for myself, is fear. It's just like this, well, what if it doesn't work out? And what if I don't? And what if someone gets hurt and I don't have health insurance? And what if? And there's just like an endless list you can make for all the reasons you shouldn't do something. But they're all based on the same thing.
And that's exactly it. It's just the what ifs, like no what ifs. Now.
Yeah, totally right.
Come on.
It's funny because I wish I could remember who said this. But because it certainly wasn't me, but I always remember it. It's just like that saying of like, I spent 90% of my life worrying about things of which 90% never happened, So, yeah, I think it's unlearning that too. That's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
be clear, Elon Musk was just a normal person and he built a rocket. And so really, he kind of like applied that. And
So, Aaron, it's your calling.
Elon Musk is not normal.
Get right on that.
And Katie's got to, let's be honest, Katie's a little obsessed with Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Put it out there.
Yeah, totally. And, you know, I see why. I mean, the guy's amazing. But if we're going to both have a conversation about I'm on the same level of Elon Musk and he's normal, I mean, you know, I think we're done here.
That's a lot to measure up to.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to be a horribly disappointing person to talk to after that.